Welcome back to the deep dive. Okay, today we're tackling something pretty big, giving you the essential guide, the shortcut really, to understanding Australian wine tourism. It's way more complex and sophisticated than many people think.
Yeah, absolutely. Most folks probably still picture, maybe just bulk Shiraz or those bag-and-box wines when Australia comes in.
Exactly. But that image is, well, it's really dated now, isn't it?
It really is. The
Hmm.
sources we looked at are very clear. Australia did excel at volume for a long time, no question. But the shift since the early 2000s, this new era they talk about, it's profound.
A philosophical shift, you mean?
Totally. The focus now is all about regional character, expressing unique terroir authenticity. And a lot of this was driven by those flying winemakers, Australians who learned techniques overseas and then brought that knowledge back home. The results, pretty stunning.
That sets the stage perfectly. So our mission today is to give you that roadmap. We'll explore the geography, the extreme climates, look at how key grapes like Chardonnay have been completely revolutionized.
And pinpoint those really unique cellar door experiences, the ones you really need to know about if you're planning a trip or even just want to understand the scene better.
Okay, let's start with the land itself. Australia's huge, over 60 official wine regions. It seems like it's defined less by tradition, like Europe, and more by these, well, geographical and climatic extremes. How do winemakers even manage that?
Well, that's the clever part, isn't it? They don't try to force it. They adapt. They lean into the challenges. We can sort of break it down into maybe four main zones, broadly speaking.
Okay.
So first, you've got the hot and arid zones.
Mhm.
Think Barossa Valley, Hunter Valley too, though it's humid. Long sunny days, water is obviously critical. And this is where you get that classic, powerful, concentrated Shiraz, dark fruit, spice, really reflecting those baked red clay soils.
Right, the iconic style. But then the ocean changes everything.
Completely. Head towards the coast, regions like McLaren Vale or Margaret River, and you're in a Mediterranean climate. The sea breezes, that maritime influence, it acts like a giant air conditioner.
Moderating things.
Exactly. It slows down ripening, keeps things even, helps the grapes hang on to their acidity even when it's warm. That's why you see such elegant Cabernet Sauvignon and lovely aromatic white blends coming out of those spots, often on gravelly or sandy soils.
We talk a lot about cooling influences. The coast is one, but what about going up? Elevation.
Ah, yes. That brings us to the cold climate and altitude zones. Think Adelaide Hills, Tasmania, parts of Yarra Valley. Getting up over, say, 400 meters gives you that natural chill.
And that preserves the acidity.
Precisely. It keeps what winemakers call the nerve of the wine, that bright, sharp, natural acidity. Absolutely crucial if you want top-quality Pinot Noir, delicate Chardonnay, or the base wines for really excellent sparkling. You need that nerve.
Okay, that makes sense. The fourth zone, though, the Clare Valley, it seems unique. What's the magic trick for their Riesling?
It's this thing called the diurnal temperature swing. Clare Valley have a continental semi-arid climate. So you get really hot days, which ripens the grapes beautifully, but then at night, the temperature just plummets.
Ah, right. Hot days, cold nights.
And that massive swing is the secret. The cold nights lock in that vibrant, almost electric acidity. Stops the grapes getting, soft or flabby. It's that contrast, that duality that makes Clare Riesling so distinctive.
That contrast is a perfect lead-in to the grapes. Shiraz might be Australia's star red, but it's not just one thing, is it? It's a bit of a chameleon.
Oh, absolutely. You take that Barossa style, intense heat, powerful sun, and you get that blockbuster wine. Dark plum, maybe some chocolate or licorice, really rich, full-bodied. But then you try a Shiraz from a cooler place, like Yarra Valley or Heathcote.
Totally different.
Completely different wine. More medium-bodied, peppery, maybe some floral notes, much more elegance, leather on its feet. It's just a fantastic illustration of how terroir shapes the final wine.
And speaking of shifts, Chardonnay went through a massive one. The sources talk about a near total rejection of that old, heavy, buttery style, that balmy style, they called it. What drove that change?
It was definitely a conscious move towards purity, I think. Winemakers realized that maybe too much new oak, too much of that buttery flavor from malolactic fermentation was actually hiding the quality of the fruit itself.
That's less intervention.
Exactly. The modern style, especially from cool spots like Tassie or the Adelaide Hills, is much more about minerality, tension, brightness, letting the fruit and the site speak.
But how did they shift consumer tastes? People liked that big buttery style for a while, didn't they?
They did, but I think it came down to quality in the end. By focusing on cooler sites, better viticulture, they started making Chardonnays that could genuinely stand up against, say, fine white Burgundy. They proved complexity didn't need all that heavy-handed winemaking. It showed the industry was maturing, moving beyond just chasing trends.
Let's circle back to Riesling for a sec. Clare Valley again. Those dry styles, they age incredibly well and develop those petrolic notes. It sounds weird, but it's highly prized, right? That hydrocarbon, toasty smell, what's the science there?
It's fascinating, actually. It comes down to a compound called TDN. It's a long name, 1,0,4,6-trimethyl-1,4,2-dihydronaphthalene. The interesting thing is that TDN tends to develop more in grapes that have had a lot of sun exposure and maybe a bit of water stress.
Which is exactly the Clare Valley condition.
Precisely. So the very conditions that make the region challenging actually contribute to this unique, complex aroma profile that develops over, 10, 15, 20 years in bottle.
That's a great example of adaptation, and that idea also seems to drive the interest in blends and newer varieties, too.
It certainly does. I mean, the classic GSM blend, Grenache, Shiraz, Mourvedre, or Mataro, as they often call it there, that's still really important, especially in South Australia.
Yeah.
Very Southern Rhone in style.
Right.
But alongside that, yeah, there's a definite conscious exploration of Mediterranean varieties. Things like Vermentino, Fiano for whites, Nebbiolo, Sangiovese for reds.
And why those specifically? Are they just better suited to the climate changes?
Well, many of them are, yes. They tend to hold on to their acidity better in warm, dry conditions. That's crucial. And many of them are naturally more drought tolerant, needing less water than, say, Cabernet or certain Chardonnay clones. So it's partly about sustainability, ensuring they can keep making high-quality, complex wines even as the climate evolves.
Makes sense. Okay, before we jump into specific regions, we really need to define old vine. It seems almost sacred in places like the Barossa.
It really is foundational to Australia's quality story, especially in South Australia. Old vines just have this incredible advantage that deep roots finding water and nutrients others can't, leading to naturally balanced grapes with amazing flavor concentration.
And it's not just a vague term there.
Now, in Barossa, it's actually codified. They have the Barossa Old Vine Charter. It categorizes them. Old vines at 35 years plus, survivor vines are 70 plus, centenarian vines hit 100, and then you have the ancestor vines over 125 years old. It's about recognizing and protecting this irreplaceable living heritage.
Wow. Okay, with that heritage in mind, let's focus on South Australia, the absolute heartland, starting with Barossa Valley.
Barossa's story is partly luck. It largely dodged phylloxera, that louse that wiped out vineyards elsewhere in the 19th century. That's why those ancient vines survived. The charter protects them now. And the Shiraz they produce, it's typically powerful, structured, really commands your attention.
And food-wise, what do you pair with something that intense?
You need something equally robust, right? The structure, the tannins, the dark fruit, it cries out for substantial food. Think classic Aussie BBQ, rich game stews, maybe some aged cheddar or other hard cheeses. Food with protein and fat to stand up to it. It reflects the local culture, really.
And the must-do experience there, the Seppeltsfield Taste Your Birth Year Tawny. That sounds incredible.
It is genuinely unique. A liquid time capsule. They have this unbroken collection of fortified tawny wine, every single vintage going back to 1878. You can literally go there into the cellar and taste a sample from the barrel corresponding to the year you were born. It's quite a profound connection to history. Really personal.
Okay, so Barossa is history, heat, power. How does that contrast with McLaren Vale just down the coast? Ocean influence again.
Exactly. McLaren Vale is much more Mediterranean, cooler breezes off the Gulf St. Vincent. It's also a real leader in sustainability. Huge focus on organic and biodynamic farming. They're aiming for, I think, 100% certified sustainability, which is a massive commitment.
And the wines reflect that coastal coolness.
Generally, yes. Yep. The Shiraz might be a bit brighter, maybe more approachable than some Barossa styles. And they do fantastic work with Grenache and those Mediterranean whites like Fiano and Vermentino.
And they have probably the most talked about cellar door building in Australia. Derenberg's The Cube.
Oh, The Cube. It's wild. A 5-story sort of half-solved Rubik's Cube plonked in the vineyards. It's less a traditional tasting room, more this multi-sensory, slightly surreal, interactive art installation and wine experience. Very memorable.
And food pairings there, near the coast.
You'd look towards the sea, wouldn't you? Fresh local seafood, things like garfish are popular, lots of great local olive oil used in contemporary dishes. It pairs beautifully with their crisp whites and maybe lighter reds.
Okay, heading inland and uphill now to the Adelaide Hills. Cool climate central.
Entirely down to altitude. Most vineyards are above 400 meters, often get cool morning fogs rolling in. This is where finesse really comes into play.
So what thrives there?
Lean, elegant Chardonnay with real minerality, vibrant Sauvignon Blanc, some of Australia's most refined Pinot Noir. And because of that high natural acidity, It's a key source for grapes going into high-quality traditional method sparkling wines.
Right, let's jump across the continent, way over west to Margaret River, often compared to Bordeaux.
The comparison holds up, yeah. Strong maritime influence from the Indian Ocean, relatively mild temperatures, long, slow ripening season. It sounds quite Bordeaux-like, doesn't it?
It does, and that shows in the wines.
Definitely. They make incredibly elegant Cabernet Sauvignon, known for fine tannins, and sometimes this distinct minty or herbal note, a regional signature. Really classy stuff.
And the white benchmark there is the SBS or SSB blend, Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon.
Yes, that's a classic Margaret River style, and arguably one of Australia's greatest white wine contributions. The Sauvignon Blanc gives you the upfront zip and aroma, but the Semillon adds weight, texture, and crucially, the ability to age beautifully.
Aging potential in a white blend.
Absolutely. A good Margaret River SBS can evolve for years, developing these complex, honey, toasty, sometimes lanolin notes. It's fantastic. And an iconic experience tying it all together is something like Lewin Estates' Art Series. They combine top-tier winemaking with contemporary art and amazing food, perfect for matching with local crayfish or premium beef.
Okay, let's fly back east, New South Wales. Hunter Valley, the oldest region, but hot and humid, sounds tough for grapes, yet they have this miracle Semillon.
Hunter Semillon is truly remarkable. It completely defies the climate. Because it gets so hot and humid, especially around harvest, they have to pick the Semillon incredibly early. Sometimes among the very first grapes picked anywhere in the world, each vintage.
So it's super low in sugar, super high in acid when picked.
Exactly. Almost piercingly acidic, very low alcohol. As a young wine, it can be quite austere, almost neutral.
So how does it become this complex, revered, aged wine? What's the secret?
The magic happens in the bottle, without any oak influence. That high acid structure acts as a preservative, allowing the wine to slowly evolve over decades sometimes. It develops these incredible tertiary notes, honey, toast, nuts, lanolin gaining weight and texture. It's a masterclass in patience and minimal intervention. Visiting historic places like Trell's Wines for a vertical tasting, trying different vintages side by side, is the best way to understand it.
We touched on Tasmania earlier, but let's give that cold southern island its moment. Insular terroir.
Yeah, being an island surrounded by cold ocean currents makes Tasmania Australia's coolest wine region overall. Perfect conditions for grapes that thrive in the cold.
Which means?
Exceptional Pinot Noir, really elegant, perfumed, high-quality Chardonnay, again focused on finesse, and increasingly world-class traditional method sparkling wines. They have the acidity, the purity of fruit. They're really gaining international recognition.
And the tourism experience there.
It tends to be a bit more rustic, maybe more intimate. Lots of smaller family-run wineries, big focus on ecotourism too, stunning landscapes, wildlife, and the food pairing is obvious. Amazing local oysters, smoked salmon, perhaps some game meats.
And Victoria State has more to offer beyond Yarra Valley, right? Just briefly.
Oh, absolutely. Victoria's incredibly diverse. You got places like Heathcote, famous for its dense, savory Shiraz, grown on ancient Cambrian greenstone soils. Totally different profile, really earthy. And then there's Rutherglen, a world apart, known for its legendary fortified wines, rich, luscious muscats and topacs, some aged in barrel for literally a century or more. Incredible liquid history.
Okay, this has been an amazing tour. Let's wrap up with some practical tips for anyone inspired to plan a trip. Best time to go.
You've got a couple of main options, really. February to April is harvest time, or vintage, as they call it. It's busy, exciting, you get to see all the action. Very dynamic.
But maybe crowded?
Can be, yes.
Huh?
If you prefer things a bit quieter, with beautiful autumn colors and generally lovely weather for exploring and dining, then April and May are fantastic. One caveat. If you're specifically targeting the coolest regions like Tasmania or Adelaide Hills, their summer, December to February, might actually be more pleasant, as it won't be too cold then.
Got it. Now, the really crucial logistical point, safety and getting around.
This is super important. Look, the regions are spread out, so having a rental car for flexibility between areas often makes sense. However, on the days you plan to actually visit cellar doors and do tastings, you absolutely must arrange a designated driver, hire a private driver, or join an organized tour.
Non-negotiable.
Absolutely non-negotiable. Australia's drink driving laws are extremely strict, with very low limits and rigorous enforcement. It's just not worth the risk. Plan ahead for tasting days. Seriously.
Okay, good advice. And finally, the cellar door visit itself. It's not just popping in for a quick splash and dash.
Not usually, no, especially at the more established places. The modern Australian cellar door experience is often much more involved. It can be a real cultural immersion, Many offer high-quality restaurants, art galleries, beautiful settings, and often you get to chat with the winemaker or family members.
So plan ahead for those too.
Definitely. Reservations are highly recommended, sometimes essential, especially at popular wineries, or if you're traveling during peak times like harvest. It ensures you get the experience you want.
This deep dive really hammers home the point. Modern Australian wine is all about its incredible diversity, the adaptability to extreme terroirs, that amazing evolution of grapes like Chardonnay and Shiraz, and these really unique, iconic experiences, tasting your birth year, exploring architectural marvels like the cube.
And what's really forward-looking, I think, is that embrace of climate-suited Mediterranean varieties. We talked about the Nebbielos, the Fianos. It shows a deep commitment, not just to quality now, but to building a sustainable, regionally expressive future. They're actively shaping what comes next.
So, what does this all mean? Well, considering Australia's deep vine history and this quite dramatic recent turn towards regional finesse and climate adaptation, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? What will the next century of Australian wine look like, and how might these new Mediterranean grapes reshape how the world sees Australian wine? Something to think about.
Definitely.
Okay, I think that's about all we have time for. Time to start planning that trip.